Beer battle. These are two fantastic German Helles lagers, which we will compare side by side today. Hofbräu is one of my absolute favorites, even though I've heard the Munich locals calls it a tourist beer. And I think everyone is in agreement that Ayinger is one of Germany's best breweries. To me, both of these beers have an extra focus on the malt, this kind of grainy, rustic, compact rye malt base. Even though, of course, the beer doesn't contain any rye, only barley, but you still get those flavors, I think. I have worked all day, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, and I have never tried these two beers side by side before, so I'm really looking forward to this. Let's start with Hofbräu, because I haven't had this in a long time. Do I recognize the smell? Yes, a familiar aroma, but also more sweet than I remembered. You get that thick malt base, but also a floral honey note. Also lemon zest, herbs. But the focus is once again that dry, compact rye bread kind of note. I really want to dig in, but we need to smell the Ayinger first. I had this not too long ago when we compared it to Weihenstephaner, and I thought the Ayinger was much more bready. It's drier, that's the first thing I notice. It also has the compact rye bread, the lemon, the herbs, maybe also not as zesty. Also look at the difference in the head retention. The Hofbräu looks more like soap. It kind of clings to the sides more. But yeah, I guess the Ayinger does as well. Scratch that observation. But let's compare the aromas more closely side by side. The Ayinger actually smells more like a Pils. It could be something like a Bitburger, but then again, if I had that beer side by side with this, maybe I would change my mind. And I know the Ayinger isn't bitter at all, but you can't smell bitterness, they say. Compared to the Ayinger, the Hofbräu actually gets kind of a meaty, savory note, and it doesn't smell as fresh and vivid. So strange, because the first time I smelled it, it just smelled lovely. The Ayinger is more like cookie dough, and the Hofbräu is more like something burnt sugar. I really like the Hofbräu aroma, but side by side, I think the Ayinger has the more appealing aroma. Let's refill them both just a little bit. And then finally dig in, starting with Hofbräu. Prost, cheers, skål. Oh yeah, lovely aftertaste. But you know the drill. I haven't been eating or drinking for a while, and the first sip of beer is almost always amazing. Yeah, it starts out like a normal Helles. It's a little bit zesty, it has some lemon, and then in the end you get all that rye bread. That's what I love about both of these beers. And it dries out, it's a dry rye bread feeling, and it feels like you almost get a bit of bitterness from the malt, but I'm guessing that comes from the hops. Also a lovely herbal and a bit bread crusty late aftertaste. And that makes you go in for another sip, because you want to go back to the sweet start again. Yeah, it's an exciting taste journey. You start out with more of the lemon zest, and then more and more of the orange flushes over you, and then in the end it dries out with that dry rye bread. So I did really enjoy that first impression. Let's have a sip of the water and then dig into the Ayinger. Prost, cheers, skål. first impressions, it's more intense, more vivid. It's like really fresh lemons and oranges or something in between, but you don't get that same exciting transition to the finish. It doesn't dry out in the same way, and you don't notice the dry, compact rye bread in the same way. When I compared this beer to Weihenstephaner, I really noticed the extra breadiness, but compared to Hofbräu, the malt base almost disappears. Of course it doesn't, it's still there, but this is what happens when you compare beers side by side. And I think the main difference is that it doesn't have that sweeter start. It is fruit meaty and a bit zesty, but not sweet in the same way, which means you don't notice the finish in the same way, but you kind of feel the freshness and the high quality of the raw ingredients. But the zest disappears and in comes more of the rye bread, but more toned down than in the Hofbräu, together with a bit of cookie dough and an almost little bit buttery herbal note. Sometimes I think I have a bit of a sweet tooth when it comes to beer, but it has to be balanced somehow, of course. Regular macro lagers that usually are a bit sweeter I just find boring. Let's try the Hofbräu one more time. The start is actually not as impressive as Ayinger. It doesn't feel as fresh and authentic, but I just love the aftertaste so much. It has the grainy rye bread, a little bit of the cookie dough, the herbs. It also feels like Hofbräu is more crushable. It's made to drink a lot of. I don't get tired of this beer, maybe because it's kind of harmless and you get that lovely finish as a reward. So touristy or not, I think this is a great beer. And Ayinger, which is a bit drier, more intense, maybe isn't made to drink a lot of in the same way. I still have the Hofbräu finish in my taste buds, even though I've had water in between. It's like when you have had a nice meal and you just want to enjoy the aftertaste. So let's see if the Ayinger is a nice contrast now. This is pretty damn good as well. I actually get more of the malt and the lovely herbs in the finish now. I don't know if something happened when it settled a bit, but it doesn't linger in the same way. It's dry and a bit sour, but that also makes you want to go in for another sip. You can feel the quality, the freshness, how vivid all the flavors are, whilst Hofbräu is more toned down, it's sweeter. Maybe it is a beer for tourists. And maybe as I explore more and more beer, I will start to appreciate beers like Ayinger, which is drier and more intense. Hofbräu feels smoother, rounder, more inviting somehow, maybe easier, and the Ayinger is more challenging. But if I had the power to decide, I would have the Ayinger start and the Hofbräu finish. Click into this playlist for more beer battles. Thank you for watching and remember, drink responsibly!